Today I'm going to be talking about my 2018 winter running essentials. .81 miles, 7 minutes 48 seconds per mile. Pretty cold out there today. I underestimated it a little bit. It was so much warmer today than it was on Saturday when we had those ridiculously cold temperatures over in my mother-in-law's house. That wasn't the case. I was cold today, but ultimately a great segue into today's video, which is my 2018 winter running essentials. Basically, I'm going to break it down into kind of like in the 40s, in the 30s, and then much below that. And those are kind of like the three categories, because I think that those are kind of like the three kind of temperature points that I'm looking at when I'm thinking about what do I need to put on to stay warm as I go out for my run. And ultimately, there's a couple of key areas that I'm looking to keep covered. And one is the head, that's the most important. And then the second is hands, and then feet. So those are like the three main areas that I'm looking for. And then there's a lot of other materials that you have a lot more kind of play and personal preference and comfort that comes into play. So let's get right into it. The most important thing that I like to have for my winter running is hand warmers. These are kind of the disposable kind. You rip them out of the pack and you start shaking them up, and there's a chemical reaction that happens and they start to generate some heat. And I like to tuck them right inside my gloves so they'll be like in the palm of my hand as I'm running, and that can help me keep a lot warmer, because it's going to be the extremities that really get face the brunt of a lot of the cold. And so the hand warmers are an absolute essential. Usually when things are in the 40s or in the high 30s, I'll go with these. These are some pretty thin running gloves, and they're very lightweight, they're very breathable, and they've got some grippy stuff here, but also some capacitive touch kind of transmitting things here. And so very convenient, but ultimately very light. These don't get to be worn very much, and I ran in them today and my hands were absolutely frozen. So these are probably done for the season, although we're supposed to have one more warm spell, so they might come back, but these are probably already almost done for the season. After that, then I get to just a pair of regular gloves. I also wear these when I'm commuting and at the, like, not at the office, but like commuting, walking around downtown. They're just regular gloves. You just need warmth. They don't need to be sweat wicking, because your hands don't really sweat at these temperatures when we're talking about like around freezing temperature and a little bit below. And you're not going to really worry about too much capacitive touch, because you don't really want to be taking your hands out to touch anything once you're running in like around the freezing point. And so that's the ones that I wear next. I'll probably pick up a couple of other like Nike Therma or some other running specific gloves, but these also work really good. And again, the hand warmers fit inside really well. Once we get to like the 20s, teens, and even single digits or even below 0 Fahrenheit, then we're looking at these guys. Again, not running specific. These are a pair of mittens my mother-in-law got for me. The outer shell is deerskin and the inner portion is lined, super warm. And I think that once you get to be super cold, mittens are the way to go, because then you don't have like the surface area of fingers. Everything kind of stays in together and it stays a lot warmer, and it creates a really nice big pocket of heat for that hand warmer to kind of like warm up. And so this is what I'm going to be wearing for most of the winter. They're gigantic. These are a size large. I'm usually like a size small when it comes to gloves, but you know, I'm usually putting a hand warmer in there, and I'm usually tucking my fingers into a fist. So if it's a little big, it's kind of okay, because it's still around the wrist cuff. It's tight enough. So keeps everything warm. So those are the gloves that I normally will bring with me. From then, let's talk about the hat. And so headgear is really important for me as I'm running. One of the main things I want to cover is my ears, because that gets really cold. And so in the 40s, I might run with still a baseball cap, depending on what the wind situation is like, or I'll wear a knit cap kind of like this one I picked up this year from Nike. I also ran quite a bit last year in this one that I got from Under Armour. The commonality between the two is that they're like intended for athletic wear. So this has dry fit material on the inside to kind of wick the sweat away from your head and let it evaporate, so that way the wet stuff is not sticking to your head as much. And the Under Armour stuff has this liner material on the inside, which also works in the same way to keep you warm without getting you wet. And ultimately, if you're sweaty, you might get still a little bit wet, but hopefully a lot of that moisture is getting to the surface so it can evaporate without cooling your body down. So that's the main reason you don't want to get too warm or too bundled up, is because then you get sweaty and wet. And then when the wind hits you, that makes you cold. And so that's the main thing that we're trying to avoid. When it gets to be super intensely cold, like ridiculously cold, then I'll switch over to a full-on balaclava. And that is kind of like it has the neck guard and a headpiece all into one. And it's very thin. And in certain places, especially where your mouth is gonna go, so it's nice, so it's breathable, it's very thin. But because it covers your entire head from literally neck to temple, it will keep you surprisingly warm. The first time I wore this, I wore it on a warmer day thinking, okay, this thinner material, I'll try it out on a warmer day. But I ended up being super hot, I think just because it covers so much. So that's something that I might wear when it gets really cold. And if it's super cold, like single digits, I might wear a hat on top of that too, or put ski goggles on top. So that's like ultra cold weather. But that also gives me to some of the neck coverings that I just talked about with the balaclava. Gives you hat and neck. A lot of times if I don't want to wear the balaclava, I'll wear a neck covering as well. And here's two that I really like. This one, I've already worn it a whole bunch of times this season, is from Buff. It's basically just a tube of fabric. It's not a lot. It's, again, really thin, but you don't need a lot to do the job that you need to do, which is to keep you warm. And this can be worn, you slide it over your head and you wear it on your neck. And if you need to, you can pull it all the way up so that it becomes more like a ski mask, and it comes up over to the nose level. And then it's also flexible, so as you're running, if you're on like a particularly hard part, big hill, whatever, you can pull it down, catch your breath a little bit, and then pull it back up. A lot of times it ends up freezing because you breathe into it, there's moisture, and then you pull it down to get up that hill or to get around that bend. And then when you bring it back up, it might be a little bit stiff because things freeze because it's that cold. But then as soon as you get your face back on it, it'll loosen things back up. But that's normal, that happens. The next step up from that is a fleece one. So when I get to like below freezing, then I'll switch over to the fleece buff. Again, it's just a tube of fabric, and it slides over your head, and you can wear it around your neck. And if you need to, you can pull it up so that it covers your face. So that's the other thing that I'll do over the neck. And then the last extremity to cover is the feet. So I don't really have a specific winter sock that I run in. In the summertime, I'll run in like running specific socks. Things are supposed to be really light, but also provide enough kind of skin protection in certain key areas. In the wintertime, I just want to be warm. And so I just wear my normal like Hanes crew cut or a longer cut of a sock. Whatever is going to be fine. This winter, I'm going to be experimenting a little bit more into some wool socks. I've already been running in some wool socks lately, and that's been interesting. And other types of winter specific, like running activity specific socks. But I don't think you really need that. So I don't think it's an essential. I've been able to run in super cold conditions, and the feet are not like the weak link in the chain. It's usually my head is the weak link in the chain, or sometimes my hands. But what I do like to have are a winterized shoe. This is the Nike Pegasus 35 Shield, and it's not as soft as I think some previous iterations of the Pegasus Shield. I've run in the 34 Shield and the 33. The 33 is kind of my nostalgic favorite, but this is the type of shoe that you're looking for. It's not going to be as breathable intentionally, because when it's breathable, it lets air in, and you don't want that. I've been running also in some other shoes like the Salomon Predict RA, which is not a winter shoe, and I've been just feeling the cold air like coming right through the top of the foot and into the toes, and it's been very cold. Running in something like this, it gives you a little bit more protection from the elements, both from moisture and also from cold air. So this is something that I would think is really important once you get to like below freezing, maybe. Above freezing, you could probably get by with just some warmer socks. Below that, then you're really starting to look at, you want something that's going to be a little less breathable and give you a little bit more warmth. So that's something that I look for. And last two things that I'll cover is a top. In terms of the top, layering is the key. Again, here I don't go with anything too special for the task. And so what I usually do is I'll have like a hoodie or a zip-up jacket that I can run in. Nothing too bulky. I don't have to run in anything that's ultra down packed or super high technology. Just a regular hoodie will do. And kind of my rationale is if it's in the 40s, you could probably get away with a long sleeve. Once you get into the 30s, then you probably need a hoodie, maybe with a t-shirt, just your regular running t-shirts underneath it. Once you get into the 30s, I might do a triple layer, like a t-shirt, a long sleeve, and then something like this hoodie or a zip-up hoodie. And if you get much colder than that, I might then put like a down vest on top of it. It doesn't have to be running specific, just something to keep your core a little bit warmer. The area you don't really have to worry about is from like here to here. So like your arm sleeve, that part usually doesn't get all that cold for whatever reason. Maybe there's fewer nerves there, but that part never is the cold part for me. Usually it's the hands, and on really cold days, and we're talking about like single digits or teens, then sometimes when the wind hits, my belly might get a little bit cold and it feels like I'm getting like wind burn there. So keeping the core, the front warm, it starts to get more important. But again, it's just more about layering, and that's the key in terms of staying warm for the winter. For pants, it's kind of the same idea. Nothing super technical that's going on there. So you can get away with some cheaper stuff or some of the stuff that you already have for your legs. And again, I go with like a layering approach. If I'm in the 40s, I might run in tights with shorts on top, or just my running pants, like a long pair of running pants. Doesn't have to be too thick, and that might be the only thing. So like a single layer. Once we get into like the 30s, around the freezing point, then I usually like to double up. I'll usually like to have like tights, full length tights, and a running pair of pants. And it doesn't have to be super thick or anything like that, just long pants. And for tights, I kind of have two favorites. I like these from Amazon. They're super cheap. The company's called Dry Skin or DR Skin, but I'm assuming it's for dry skin. They're not that expensive, and they're super thin, so it's great for layering. I also have a pair of Nike Pro tights that I recently picked up this year. They are much cheaper than I thought they would be, because I was just kind of scouring the Nike website to see some prices, and they were much cheaper than I thought they'd be, so I picked up a pair. But they weren't as compressive or as thick as I was expecting they were going to be. And I have a pair of Under Armour tights that I really like, that are probably my favorite for winter running. These are the most compressive and the warmest, so they're like the thickest material as far as the tights that I have go. And so I have a couple of different brands, a couple of different types. The Under Armour ones keep me the warmest, and I don't know if that's all Under Armour ones or if I just happen to have picked up a thicker, winterier pair of Under Armour tights. I'm not sure, but those are the ones that I usually reach for when the temperatures are super cold. And then again, once we get into like single digits, that's when I might actually worry about keeping kind of the core area of my legs warm. And so I might put on just another pair of running shorts on top of the tights, and then put my running pants on top of that. So I have 3 layers, a triple layer system, just to keep that that groin area a little bit more protected from that wind when it hits, because that's an area that does tend to get very cold on super cold runs. When it gets to like the teens and single digits, the running, you're not going to be out there for very long. An hour is pushing it for me, because usually by then, about half an hour in at those kind of temperatures, I start to get a little bit lightheaded. I feels like the blood flow is not so great, and so you have to be really careful in those kinds of temperatures. But running in the 20s is not really a problem. Even in some of like the high teens, shouldn't be a problem if you're properly layered and have the right gear that you need to. But ultimately, I prefer winter running. I kind of like cold weather running. I like running really, really cold more than I like running really, really hot. And I also just don't want to be in a gym or on a treadmill if I don't have to be. So hopefully this will help you stay out there even past your goal races for this year. And so that way you can keep that weekly mileage base at a relatively high spot without having to resort to the treadmill all winter long. And so if you have any questions about this, let me know in the comments. This isn't like the most comprehensive list. You don't have to have this specific material or these specific things in order to be able to run all winter long, but this is just the stuff I use. A lot of you have been asking for it, so I wanted to share and give you an update over some of the stuff that I was using last year. You can also check out that one as well. A lot of the key components are going to be the same. Head covering, neck covering, super thick gloves, and the hand warmers. But there's some new stuff for this year, so I wanted to go over that in terms of what I'm using for 2018 in the winter, and I'll be picking up a couple more things, and I'll let you guys know about those as I do. Before I go, I want to go over the charity runners for today. I'm going to go over 2 charity runners because yesterday's video was the Veterans Day video. I didn't want to put a talking part at the end of the video, so but I did have someone in the description, and that was Kim Rosen. She's running for the Arredondo Foundation and running the Boston Marathon in 2019. The Arredondo Foundation is working to provide support, education, and awareness for military-related suicides, and so helping military veterans and their families cope with kind of the stresses of coming back from war. And I think that's really important, and I was very glad to be able to put that foundation spotlighted on Veterans Day. So that information will again be in the description of this video if you want to check that out. But for today, we've got another kind of a twofer, or we've kind of got a threefer today, really. We're going to be spotlighting 40, who has the channel 40 Runs on YouTube. Go check that out. He's also done a really good review of the Pegasus Shield, by the way. So if you want to get another kind of impression on the Shield, go and check that out. He's going to be running with his friend Matthew Deller, and they're going to be running the London Marathon in 2019 together as a team. And they're raising money for the Paget's Association. Paget's disease is something that is very prevalent in England, and so they're going to be running to raise money for that association. Their link is in the description. Since there's 2 of them, I did double up on my daily donation. And even more so because this website, so a lot of the ones that are British do let me choose dollars as a way of donating. This one didn't, so I did 10 this time rather than my usual 5, and I did it in pounds, not dollars, so even more than a double up. But good luck to Chris and Matthew as they prepare for the London Marathon. I'm very excited to see them running that, and looking forward to checking out their progress on YouTube as I go. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching it and making it to the end of this video, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
Yo, what's going on?